Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Colorful Conversation. Today I wanted to talk about something that is such a simple fix that most people were never taught is a possible solution. I spend more time than I possibly should on many hairdresser forums. I want to see work that people are doing. I want to see the questions that are out there. As a color educator, I want to see the pain points. What are people struggling with and how can I help? So there's two main themes that go through pretty much every forum and every combative argument on Facebook forums, because we've all been taught differently and we all have our own beliefs. So when someone shows you a different way, your first reaction is, that's not true. I wasn't told that. But the person who is fighting the answer is also the person having the issue. So they're closed down and they're not open to other solutions. So today is going to be a very impactful coffee chat, because this is something that once you understand this, it's going to completely change your entire way that you color hair from a formulation perspective, especially with gray coverage. I have entire lessons just on the myths that we've all been taught from beauty school and beyond that are still fresh information coming from the beginning levels of your career. Stylists that are in school right now are being taught these very things that are setting them up for failure down the road. So in hair in general, in hair color, there is natural warmth that lives in the hair, everyone's hair, unless you're, from Sweden and you're born a level 10, there's like no warmth in there. You have the icy blue eyes. Most people have what's called underlying pigment contribution or underlying hair color tones. There's all different ways of wording it. I call it RPC, which is remaining pigment contribution. And it was the biggest thing. If you follow my coffee chats or you follow me on YouTube or you've been to one of my classes, the biggest, most impactful thing that I learned in my entire career was that existed. I was never taught that in the beginning of my career. I never had a boss or a colorist that I work with talk to me about that. So I, like most of probably you and others, thought when I choose a tube of hair color, I am placing color into the hair. I am painting a different color onto the hair is kind of how my mind worked. If I'm reaching for a level 8 red orange, I'm thinking, if I put red orange on brown hair, I'm going to get the red orange that was on the swatch. I can't tell you how many forums I see people begging for the manufacturer swatch chart. They're like, I can't get the swatch chart from the company and I paid all this money for this hair color and I can't get the swatch chart. And I say, honey, be happy you don't have it, because when you go by the swatch chart, you set yourself up for disappointment, because those swatches, number one, are not human hair. None of them are. They couldn't possibly afford to make those big giant binders that you get from the manufacturer with human hair. Human hair right now, if you go to purchase it for swatching, which I frequently do, went from what used to cost $150 is now $500. As with everything else during COVID, everything is through the roof expense-wise. So one of those binders with those hundreds of little swatches would cost the companies, $500 or more each, and they're not going to do that. So instead, they use either yak hair or actual thread. It's thread that is dyed to what they want to show you what the color is going to hopefully create on the hair. But what they don't tell you is, what was that color used on? What did that little piece of artificial hair, this is an example. This is one of the coolest business cards I've ever seen. This is the company that made my level finders. These are the tools that I have in my toolbox that I sell, this level finder. So for me to have this made, same thing. I had to show them what did I want the final result to look like, and then they make that happen with using, they didn't use the hair color is basically what I'm trying to say. So this was their business card, and I thought it was so cool to show, you know, that this is what they do. They put one of these things. So this is not hair. So if you were to take a tube of color and you think that this is what you're getting on the hair, it's not going to look like that necessarily unless the hair is 100% white or bleached completely out to where there's no yellow left whatsoever, which is also a whole other class, because when there's no yellow whatsoever, the hair is void of everything, and it's hard to get it to take a tone and hold on to it because it's lost everything, and it's so overly porous that it might as well get cut off and be discarded because you can't really do too much to it. So that being said, if you're leaning on your swatches and you're formulating according to what you see on the swatches, I guarantee you are a disappointed and not very busy colorist, or your clients are just really simple people that love you and they're like, okay, close enough, which there's a lot of that out there. I've seen it in my own salon with new hires. I kind of let people go. When they first come to interview with me, they tell me how fabulous they are. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to let you go. You're going to do your thing with your clients. But if I start to see a lot of redos or a lot of angry clients, we're going to take a step back and you're going to assist me for a while, and we're going to start fresh. And I'm going to teach you the way that things are done here in this salon. So I would let people go, and they would just be creating these potions in the back, you know, mixing this and this and this together, and praying and hoping that it comes out decent. And sometimes it would, but the reason that it did is because of the hair that it was being put on, not because the mixture was correct. So one of the biggest mistakes, I shouldn't say mistakes, one of the biggest myths that we have been taught that leads to undesirable results is when we're lifting hair that we can possibly simply lift it a few levels and keep it cool. I saw a post on one of the forums the other day, and the girl said, I'm just so frustrated. I have this client, and a lot of us use she's a 4-5. She's not a 4-5. She's either a 4 or a 5. She's either a 5 or a 6. You can't be a 4-5. People say 4-5 because they're unsure. So that is where this tool comes in. And that's why I'm so passionate about talking about this tool, because you really need to know, is it a 4 or is it a 5? Because if you formulate basing it on it being a 5, here's the natural side. So if you're basing it on being a 5 and it's really a 4, and you're using a formula that's going to bring it here, or so you think, you're really landing here, and here is going to be a lot more deep red. This is going to be more orange. So you want to, when you formulate, you want to cancel what's going to come about where you're landing when you color the hair. Most people are trying to cancel from where they're coming from. I know this sounds confusing. So if I were to use a level 7 tube on my hair, I'm a natural 5. So Stacy, yes, you can. It's on my website, expertcolorsolutions.com. So I'm a level 5. So people are saying, okay, I'm using a 7. So at the level 7, if you have my book, this is a really helpful chart. Pages 7 and 35, I talk about all the time, is the chart that tells you what lies underneath. I call it what lies beneath, like that movie. What lies underneath at each level. So if you're saying you want to go to a 7 and you're assuming that you're getting to a 7 is orange. So you're going to formulate with blue in your formula to cancel that orange. But here's the tricky part. The level 7 is not going to take my level 5 to a 7. This is the golden nugget, guys. If you drifted off and you're eating your breakfast and you're not paying attention, come back to me. A level 7 tube of color is not going to make a level 5 become a 7. And I see it over and over and over and over in these questions. And they're like, I'm so frustrated. Why can't I have just a cool level 7? Well, number one, level 7 is not cool ever. So if you're going to lift level 5 hair to 7, even if you were to get there, once you get there, you arrive at orange. So it's never going to be cool, even if you do get there. So there's things that have to happen. There's multiple processes that have to happen to truly get to a cool level 7. But where you're landing is right in between. Your level 5 is your natural. Your level 7 is what you're using. 7 and 5 together is 12. 12 divided by 2, because we're meeting between, 12 divided by 2 is 6. So this whole time that you're thinking you're arriving at a 7, you're really arriving at a 6. And if you look at the chart, again, on page 7 of the book, 6 is orange red. So blue by itself, when you're trying to get to a 7, blue by itself is going to cancel some of, I shouldn't say cancel, neutralize some of the orange. And what's left when you neutralize the orange? If you're landing at orange red and the blue takes care of the orange, what is left in the hair? Red. So now you create it red when all you want it to do is be a little bit lighter and cool. The fact of the matter is, a little bit lighter and cool is not possible. It's not possible. And I'll have 50 people get on here and say, but I do it all day long. And I say, yes, you do. And the hair looks amazing that day. Show me the hair in 2 weeks. I just went to have my hair done and I walked in and my colorist was like, whoa, what the heck is going on with your hair? That's the warmest I've ever seen you. I was out on a boat. I didn't have my hat with me and I took a lot of walks without my hat. The sun was beating down on my, my artificial color and it got super brassy, and I use Demi. So I am cooler than most starting out, but that sun and that heat and the blow dryer and the curling iron and all of that stuff is still going to shift out that warmth. It's like nearly impossible to stay cool. It takes a lot of work to stay cool. So then you say, well, then what are we supposed to do? So one of my members in my Hair Color Secrets Insider membership, she's an active member. She's awesome. She asks great questions. It's great for the group. We were doing what's called a hot seat. A hot seat is when a member has a question and I say, that is a great question. Do you mind jumping on live in the group so that we can chat and walk through this in front of everyone? Because if I answer a question just for her, that's only helping her. I want to help all of the other hundreds of members that have that same issue. So I said, let's jump on a hot seat. She jumped on a hot seat and we walked through a scenario. And she said, what do you think about me using a Demi cream on this situation? Or should I use permanent with a lower volume? To which my answer was, you pick. It's really the same. And she said, really? And I said, you would be surprised. The difference between Demi color and permanent color is its ability to lift. In most cases, depending on the hair's porosity, texture, density, all of the things, fine hair with, not angry gray, like normal gray, up to 50%, me, will easily, beautifully cover with even a liquid Demi like Redken Shades EQ. My formula is Redken Shades EQ. I don't have any permanent color on my hair and I am over 50% gray. And as you see, I don't have gray and it gives me the dimension that I like. So it makes my blonde look brighter because I have that depth through the deposit only. So everyone, if I try to answer on a forum and I say, oh, just use Demi, they're like, but what about the gray? So that's the biggest myth, that it does not cover gray. So I promised Kim, we talked about the difference between a liquid Demi, which is more translucent, which I like. So I try to get it done with that. If it doesn't cover with that, then I'll go to the cream Demi, but I have to formulate differently with the cream because there's more alkalinity. Then if that doesn't do it, then I'm like, okay, I have to cave in and use permanent, but I'm going to use the lowest volume developer possible, because I don't want lift, because lift equals warmth. Always, always, always. So I'm going to share the photo with you of my swatching exercise. So this was a pain in the butt. It took me half a day basically to do, because there were multiple swatches and I needed to make sure that everything was timed correctly. And I did it on 2 different bases of hair. So the top you'll see was 50% gray, 50% level 5. That far left piece is the what's the word? That's the natural hair. That's what it looked like beforehand. So look at what that looks like. And that is 50% gray. I can't tell you how many people misread the percentage of gray. A person will have 6 gray hairs and they're like, she's 75%. I'm like, she's not. She has 6 gray hairs. She's like 10%. So understanding what the true percentage is going to make your formula work or not work. So it's hard to see because I'm not a professional photographer, so I would have needed a light to show you a better rendering of what it looks like, but it looks more gray in person than that swatch. So the next one, the second from the left, is Redken Shades EQ 6NB. The reason that it's 6NB is because in Shades EQ, you need NB to cover the gray. So the NB in Shades EQ is the equivalent of all the other swatches using a 6N. So that's why that is different, because 6N alone would not have covered the gray. And that's another big thing that people don't know. So the next one is Redken Shades EQ Cream, which uses a 10 volume in the 6N. The next one is Color Fusion 6N Permanent with 20 volume. So if you could see this in a brighter light, you would see that the only difference between the 3 swatches is that the 6N with 20 volume is a bit warmer. Both the liquid and the cream covered the gray 100%, and the Color Fusion covered it as well, but it was a bit warmer. The lower swatches were done on 80% gray. You see how much more gray is on that first swatch. And the first one, I did the 6N by itself to show you. And of course, you can't really see that either, but you'll see there's a lot of gray left behind, because 6N in Shades EQ is not meant to cover gray. It's a blue-violet base. It's a cool N, and it's not meant to cover gray. Then Redken Shades EQ Liquid 6NB covered perfectly, 80% gray. The gray was covered. Redken Shades EQ Cream 6N, not so much, didn't cover as much. That was a surprising finding for that. And then the Redken Color Fusion with 20 volume had like a weird, really smoky finish to it, because it was trying to cover the gray, but this is another mishap that happens often when we're not properly trained. People go into, I call it 6N syndrome. They think that 6N is the all-encompassing, amazing gray coverage color. An N is a balanced shade that has everything it needs to go in and create a neutral gray-brown, basically. It's more of a gray than brown. So N by itself, when hair is 80% gray, is not necessarily going to be a pretty color. So while it covered the gray on that swatch, it wasn't a fashionable or pretty color. It looked like a muddy, overtoned, corrective tint back, basically. It was not a pretty color. So you have to understand that. So, pardon me, leaning on an N, being like the queen of 6N and being in sheer panic when you're out of N in the salon is the issue that most people are having. It's that you think N is this superpower that can do everything by itself, but it cannot. So this is a lot. I'm only 19 minutes in, and I'm sure most of you are scratching your head. I said to my husband, I'm going on a Tuesday, which is going to confuse a lot of people. I'm traveling tomorrow. So I'm on a Tuesday, and I said, this is a heavy episode. That's a lot, but it's on my heart to share this, because I can't tell you how many people I have not had the pleasure of being a mentor to that need this information. I am here for anyone that needs help with formulation. It is my passion. It is my life. It is my everything. And things that are this simple, this coffee chat will forever change you if you go back and do something different. If you try using a Demi where you've always leaned on a permanent, it is going to change your world as a colorist. It's going to change your client's life. I had a client who's a brunette, 35% gray around the face, everywhere else her natural. I always used, she has very thick, coarse hair. She gets the Brazilian smoothing treatments. She's got those angry grays. So I went through all the stages with her and we landed on Wella Color Touch Plus. Color Touch Plus is more heavily pigmented for resistant people that need a little heavier coverage. So we started using that on her. Beautiful. I can highlight through it beautifully. It doesn't give me a hard time lightening back through it. She had caramely highlights with this beautiful base covering her gray, and she could not get in to see me at Christmas one year. And she was freaking out. And I was like, I was so jam-packed. Like there was nowhere to squeeze. It wasn't like I'll skip lunch because lunch, forget about it anyway. So I couldn't see her. So she went to another salon. And the first thing that they did was reach for permanent. And of course, they reached for permanent at the level that they thought that I used to get her there, which I was using deposit only. So she came out looking like shoe polish. It completely destroyed what I had worked so hard to have, this beautiful balanced chocolate brown with beautiful caramel highlights, gone in one visit of someone thinking they knew better and putting permanent color on there. So she came back to me, and then I had to take a year to get her back with, banding and all the stuff that comes along with it. So let me see. I see some comments. So I love when I see your name, Jacqueline Smith, I smile because I think of Charlie's Angels. She is so beautiful even now. She's got to be in her late 60s. She still looks gorgeous. So Jacqueline said, I've switched 60% of my clients to Demi since I joined in November. So Jacqueline is a member of the Insider. And the first thing that people do is embrace this thing of choosing a Demi and stop fighting all of the brass. So I say to members when they first join, the first question that I get is in one of the first modules when we talk about using Demi, they're like, well, I'm afraid. To which I say, use it in the back. Use it in the back of your client's head and try it. Use her regular formula all around the front, from her, her crown to like the occipital, use her permanent. And then in the back underneath, switch her over to Demi. And then when you're blow drying her hair, just kind of look and you'll smile. Everybody gets that smile like, oh, wow, it did work. And it looks really good and it's not warm. So then you're confident in the next time using it all over her hair. And there doesn't have to be a conversation. You don't need to get the trumpet out and make a big announcement like, I just watched Elaine's Coffee Chat and I'm trying this new thing on you and I'm afraid it's not going to work. So let's just pray that it does. No. Do one little section in the back of her hair and just remember where that is. Put a little clip in there, do something so that you know that that's where you did it, and try it just on that one section. And I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised, and you'll open your mind to the possibility of, the one member, Jackie, is so funny. She's like, I want to change everybody and I want to return all my permanent color. I'm like, no, there is a place for permanent color. We use plenty of permanent color at my salon. But when a brunette wants to have her gray covered and she's not looking to be any lighter, there's no reason to bring all that warmth out when all she simply wanted was no gray. So it's more of that. And also blondes like myself that are constantly getting warm. So Ashley, using 6NB on 80% gray, doing a retouch and refresh the ends, what would be your timing on retouch? And same, everything's the same. I think people think that Demi is this crazy different category. I process my shades of Q for a minimum of 30 minutes when I'm covering gray. So if I was using 6NB on a client, I would retouch her gray with the 6NB. I would set the timer for 20 minutes, or 15 minutes, and then I would start to mix up her end shade, which I usually do shade lighter and sometimes a little bit warmer for the mids and ends, unless she fade it funky, which she won't because she's has Demi on there. And then I start to apply it to the mids and ends and let that process for the rest of the next 10 minutes because it takes 5 minutes to put on. So it's on the mids and ends for 10 minutes. It's all shiny, beautiful, and even, and everybody's happy. So Stacy asked, can we purchase this tool from me? I'm going to put in here, it is on my website. it is a great tool to have. One of my members just reached out and said, I need another one. Someone took mine. And I'm like, I am not surprised because it's a handy little tool. Deborah says, for those of you who haven't become a member insider for your own sanity and for the sake of your club, thank you, Deborah. Deborah is amazing. She is a wonderful colorist that has had an amazing career and got to do some famous people, and she's beautiful inside and out, and she loves the insider membership. Mary is also a member. What Demi did you switch to? You mean for in general? Can you elaborate on that, Mary? Are you saying maybe when they get too gray for the liquid to cover, go to the next thing? I start with liquid. My go-to is Shades EQ. You can use Joico, you can use Rusk, any liquid Demi, but different brands have different rules. For Redken Shades EQ, it's that NB must be in the formula, at least for the percentage of gray. So for example, my hair, I don't want a 6NB result, but I need 6NB in my formula to take care of my gray. The balance of the formula can be more of what I want. So the 6NB is there to anchor that gray coverage, and then the other 50% can be another shade, just as if you would do in permanent color. So then if this is I'm starting to get a little more gray than the shades can handle. So I'm really bummed out about it because if you've seen, let me see if I have any on here. If you've seen the pictures of me when I used permanent color, how brassy my hair was, you will know why I'm bummed out about. Actually, look at my natural. I'll show you this is my high school graduation picture is in here. So that is my natural. And you can see how warm it is because I was trying to lighten it myself with like one of those sun-in type sprays, and I thought I was blonde. In fact, I would describe myself as blonde in this picture. Is that hilarious? I was like, blonde hair, blue eyes. I'm blonde. I was not blonde at all. No, I don't have it on here, but somewhere on this page, there's a photograph of me when I used Redken color gels. I used the ABs, and I was like, yes, finally a cool level 8. I am the happiest woman on earth. And I would use 8 AB on my root area to like bump the base a little bit, blend the gray, and then I would highlight through it. And when you see the photographs of me, what it faded to be, I look like a big orange, bright mess of a not pretty color at all. I'm going to look and see. It'll take me forever to find it. So I can post it when I finish this, but it's not pretty at all. I put on one of the pages, my journey as a blonde. I did like the whole, here it is. So this is the journey as a blonde. So this photo, that's me, the graduation picture. And then underneath is what the 6AB turned into. I was in California on that photo, and I thought my blonde was just banging fabulous. And I look like, oh my God, it's like a peachy, brassy yellow. It totally fights with my skin tone. I look like a totally different person. And that is what happens when I put permanent color on my hair and encourage the natural lift that inevitably comes out. Let me see. I'm doing a corrective highlight today. Her mom lifted her to a beautiful copper orange and then added foils to break it up. I use pulp violet. I'm relatively new to it. Wish you used it. They also have a cool base. I know she wants to be light, but I'm feeling I'll need level 6 to neutralize that copper in between foils. So copper, this is like a full-on corrective thing. What is the goal, Lisa? For her to be blonde? She doesn't want to be any, the copper was an accident, I'm assuming. Because you have to, when you're working with brassiness or something that you don't want, you have to be at the same level as that problem or deeper to completely take it away. So yes, if she is like a bright orange copper, you're going to have to be at that orange copper level in canceling it, which you're correct is 6. She could be a 5 or she could be a 6. So you're going to have to use a 6, and you're going to have to go in with all blue, the bluest color that you can use. But if you're not very experienced and you're not really quick, you might want to consider not doing it all at the same time, because that can create a whole bigger correction if you're trying to do everything at the same time and your highlights aren't ready, but your color is, finished doing its job and you don't want it to get super muddy. So it's tricky to do it at the same time, but that definitely is a big project. Hey, Leslie, good morning. Membership has been a game changer. It's paid itself off. Oh, thank you, Leslie. I hope you're coming to the retreat. I hope to meet all of you in person at the in-person retreat. I'm going to be sharing that with you all probably in the next couple of days. We're going to start taking deposits. So we're going to get to see each other in person. So Lisa did answer. She said, yes, it was an accident. She wants to be blonde. So Lisa, without seeing a photograph, I'm going to venture to say that everything that's on the head right now is probably not welcome. You probably don't want any of it. So I do a procedure where I actually go in and pre-tone everything away before I start to highlight, because there's nothing that I want to keep in the hair. But again, I would have to see it, because if there's blonde pieces in there that you want to keep, that's a whole other story. So sorry, I can't be more helpful, but that would be a hot seat that I would do in the membership, where I would actually sit and go through it step by step with you. Lynn says, I've been behind the chair for 52 years. Elaine is sharing all the information that took me so many years to accumulate. I know, Lynn, the reason that I do this is I feel the same way. I had nobody helping me with any of this. I remember going to hair shows and feeling so lost and frustrated. And everyone seemed to just shake their head and be like, yeah. They would see these techniques and be like, oh, I can't wait to go back and try that. And I was like, try that? I don't even know what just happened. She didn't tell me why she chose that formula. She told me the recipe, 7N and 7CR or whatever it may be, and it created this beautiful copper red, but I never knew why she chose 7N and 7CR. And I didn't get to see it done. How many hair shows have you attended where they bring out this gorgeous model and they tell you what was done, but you don't see it? You don't see it being done. And when you speak to an educator, who now I'm blessed to be behind the scenes with some of the most fabulous educators that were my heroes and my mentors, and now we joke about all the crap that went on behind the curtain that they couldn't share in the show because they screwed up. Something went wrong. There was porosity they didn't account for, or something got too dark or too light or too red or too whatever. And they're doing extra steps back behind the scenes and then showing you the finished product. And don't even get me started about photographs, people's Instagram pages. That's the highlight reel, their Instagram page. The girl that does my color now, I was so proud of her. Recently, she posted a photograph of someone she did that she wasn't proud. She said, I'm not proud of this. I hate how this turned out. And she's an educator and has thousands and thousands of followers on Instagram that think that she's flawless. And she's like, it happens to me too. You don't know the history of the hair at any time. When someone's brand new, you don't know what lies beneath for sure. So, just be open. I love you, Stacy. How are you? We need a check-in call. Stacy says the Wizard of Oz. And it's so funny that you're saying that, because that was the dynamic in the beginning when I owned my salon and I was training new people. I didn't have the luxury of the time to train them the way that I can share with these members. I'm all in right now on the education. I'm not behind the chair. I'm not saying, oh yeah, use this in 12 seconds. I'm able to jump on a Zoom and say, listen, let me see the hair before. Let me see what's going on. Let me get to the bottom of it. So in my salon, we literally had these velvet curtains in my first location, and I would be behind the curtain. And one of my colorists would come back and be like, go outside, go out there and pretend that you're getting water from the water cooler and check her out and tell me what to put on her. And then I would take a lap and I would come in the back and I'd be like, oh, do this, this, and this. And she'd mix it all together. Well, that colorist got awarded like a Best of Philadelphia award for doing that client. And she has no idea why she used what she used or what was even going on. She asked me what to do. She put it on. She got all the kudos and got to go to the party, you know, Best of Philly party and all this. And I'm like, wait a minute, that was my formula. That was really my client. I just didn't put my hands in her hair. So that was the running joke. They're like, you're the Wizard of Oz. You're behind the scenes. You don't get any credit for being Oz. But we appreciate you. So that's all that matters. So questions. Ashley, do I need to use the same percentage? Yep. Always the same percentage of NB equal to the percentage of gray. 25% gray would be 25% NB, 75% whatever your goal shade is. And remember, you're only depositing. So that goal shade, you know, if you want a copper and her hair is level 4 brown, you know, you're not lifting, you're just putting color on top. So remember that. That's a whole other class. So I love that a lot of my members are on here. They're not sick of listening to me yet. They still jump on to my coffee chats, but it was something that was, again, heavy on my heart. I wanted to share because most of you are not members and you're not getting this information, and it's important information. So promise me that you'll try something new today or tomorrow that you learned from today. And please jump on here and give me some feedback. Let me know how it went, but be sure to understand the why behind what you're doing and the why behind the other shade that you're choosing to go with the NB that's necessary for that gray coverage. I will see you guys next Wednesday. Actually, next Wednesday, I think I'm traveling too. Hold on. I think I might have to go on Tuesday then too. No, never mind. I'll be back on Wednesday next week. I will be back in my comfortable office and be able to go live from there next Wednesday. So thanks for watching. Have a great Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you next week.